What's up guys, my name is Moo. I'm a college student who loves reading and I'm here to share that love with all of you. I don't have my ring light on. Does that even change anything? I can't see. It is so bright outside right now. Like, I have not seen the blue sky in months. And I'm looking from here to here, there's blue sky. It quite matches my shirt. I'm a little blind, so I can't see myself that well. Like, I'm using my phone, so I have the front-facing camera on. Like, I can see myself, but not really well. So, that's cutie? I don't know, bro. Anyways, I am staring into the bright blue sky right now. But that's okay. The tone of this video is going to be bright and nice. I am going to talk about The Tale of Genji. This is known as one of the first, if not the first, novel ever written in the course of human history. And it's so good. I love this book. I had to read it for class, though it was on my reading list even before then. I read it last winter, so it's been over a year. So I had to do a little bit of research, some little refresh to jog my memory, but I did. I have a lot of notes over there, and I will talk about this book because it is very good and I really recommend it to anyone who is a reader. I'm getting ahead of myself. Recommendations are not until the end, but let's get started. So let's start with the summary. Written in the 11th century, this exquisite portrait of country life in medieval Japan is widely celebrated as the world's first novel, and is certainly one of its finest. Genji, the Shining Prince, is the son of an emperor. He is a passionate character whose tempestuous nature, family circumstances, love affairs, alliances, and shifting political fortunes form the core of this magnificent epic. So, the book is called The Tale of Genji. It's technically about Genji, but I would argue that it is really a book about women. And we're going to get into that, and I'm going to tell you about all the important women in this book and why I think it is about them more than it is about Genji. Because, out of everything I remember from that novel, I cannot remember a single thing about Genji except for his relationship to the woman in his life. So we're going to go in from that aspect. We're going to talk about the women in the novel, their significance in the novel, and all that kind of stuff. So Murasaki Shikibu, I am so sorry if I pronounced that wrong. She was a woman living in this era at the time. It was written by a woman. The first known novel was written by a woman. Like, isn't that so cool? Feminism, win! She was a noble woman who was very familiar with the society that is depicted in this novel, the high-class society, and it shows. I mean, I'm no Japanese historian, let's be so for real, I am just a girl. But I had to read it for school in a class about ancient Asian civilizations. That was literally the name of the class. Ancient Asian civilizations. So I feel like that's gotta count for something. It's obviously accurate enough that we're learning about it in an academic setting. And not to brag, but I go to a pretty good school. It's literally not a brag, I just really like my school. Trust me, I don't believe that school is the only thing that indicates intelligence, so never think that. If you're not good at school, it doesn't mean you're not smart. That's just a disclaimer. I just really like academic stimulation and I really like my school. And I had to read this book for school. Sorry, the tangent. Not so good, not so good. But we are going to get into it. I am not going to really tell you a timeline because not only do I not remember it, but I feel like there just wasn't a very concise timeline. I was always a little bit confused, which makes sense. I think that for translated work from that long ago, I think it's just really hard for people to understand what's going on, you know, because like even Pride and Prejudice at some points, it's like I don't know what's going on. I can infer, but sometimes I'm gonna Google it afterwards so I make sure that I know what's going on correctly. So this is the 11th century. Like Pride and Prejudice is a book written in English only a couple hundred years ago. This is a book written in Japanese from the 11th century. So obviously it was like a little bit hard to follow, plus like the novel structure that is known today really wasn't established. But it really wasn't established, so the timeline is not that important, I don't think. I think it's really a story more about how the women in Genji's life are affected by the thoughts and actions of Genji. So let's start with his mother. So his mother was a concubine, but she was the emperor's jump scare. It's about March Madness. I don't care about March Madness. Oh my gosh. So his mother is a concubine, the emperor's favorite concubine. And through the relations that the emperor and the concubine have, Genji is born. Now Genji, because he is the emperor's son, is a prince, but he's not really eligible for the throne really because of his mother's status. So he's just a prince and he kind of just does his own thing. He is married off to Lady Aoi. See, the thing is, Japanese names for the most part are pretty easy to say. They're pretty phonetic, but when it's a lot of vowels next to each other, I have to go back to my roots. I have to think about the hiragana knowledge that I have, which is limited. I took 2 years of Japanese in high school. I don't really remember a thing, but Lady Aoi, it's 3 syllables, even though it's just 3 letters. That's how you say it. He gets married to Lady Aoi, who is a lady of a prominent family. However, he quite neglects her because he has so much more freedom than she does. She is a bargaining tool. They get married because of their class standing, not because of love, of course. And she feels very neglected, and she ends up dying in childbirth. And the reason she ends up dying in childbirth is because one of his mistresses, Lady Rokujo, possesses her during childbirth, and she dies. It's a very interesting story, but that happens too. Rokujo is an incredibly intelligent woman, but women were not allowed to pursue academic endeavors like men could back then, so she was highly repressed. Once again, like honestly, I did not remember her much, and even as my memory was jogged, I still don't remember much about her, but I think she is a good representation of just an example of intelligent women who did not get the opportunity to be able to reach their full potential because of gender norms and patriarchal values that were just not great for women back then. It's really unfortunate that she is such an intelligent person. She has the capacity for so much more than she's given, but her worth is really only valued by the men she associates herself with. And I don't know, it just makes me sad. Women back then did not get to have their own identities. I just don't know how one could live like that. I think it was easier for them because it was all they knew, but it's just hard to think about, you know? Shifting away from that, though, is a little weird. He has an affair with the Empress. His father's wife, the Empress, has an affair with the Empress. And the reason that he is in love with the Empress, because she reminds him of his mother. Yeah, I don't know either. His mother died at a young age for him, And I get that that can be traumatic, and I guess trauma manifests in the most weird ways, but I don't know, that just is a little to me, you know? I need to stop, but like it's true. Like I wish that I could say more on that besides just me staring off into space and like being confused and concerned. But what else am I supposed to say? He had an affair with the Empress because she reminded him of his mother. They had a child. Just crazy. Next is Murasaki, who had the same name as the author, by the way, so interesting. I don't know why that is, but it was very interesting. But this is the worst part for me. This is definitely the worst part for me, which is crazy because I just told you about the Empress. But the Empress's niece is also in this story. And Genji meets her when she is 10. And I understand people were married off a lot younger back then, but it doesn't make it okay, obviously, because of the information we know now. You know, you can look at something historical and understand that it happened back then because of lack of knowledge, but it doesn't make it okay. It's like how people didn't used to wash their hands after using the restroom and before eating and that kind of thing because they didn't understand how germs worked because they had never encountered anything on a microscopic level before. So they didn't know that the cleanliness of your hands affected whether or not you got sick. But it doesn't mean that not washing their hands was fine, you know, it was still bad. And the same can be applied for here. So Murasaki, he meets Murasaki when she is 10, and she looks so much like the Empress that again, he falls in love with her at age 10. It's explicitly said in the novel that she is immature for her age. She is immature for a 10-year-old. And yet he still falls in love with her. She is sent to live with him because her mother dies, and she needs a man to take care of her because no Japanese woman back then could live on their own, which that was just the structure of society back then. So he basically raises her and grooms her into being the perfect lover for him. I want to approach it from a nuanced lens because again, that was back then, but it's still so gross to read about. Like, it's not okay, and like the way that he treats her is not okay. She is absolutely in love with him. She's enamored by him, but her heart breaks knowing that he's off with other women because he doesn't care about them. He just cares about his pleasure. Genji is not written as a good character. He's not supposed to be a likable character. But the way that he mistreats the women in this story, it's just upsetting. Murasaki, unfortunately, because of grief and because of the sadness of knowing that he does not care for her like she cares for him, he loves her, but not like she loves him. And she realizes that, and she basically wastes away. She dies, and it's because of grief. And that obviously, like, I have to imagine that it was written in because it happened in that era. And that sucks. The author Murasaki really shows what it was like to live in that era at the time in Japan. It didn't matter your class standing. All women, their actions were dictated by men. Like, their social standing, what they got to do with their life, all of that kind of stuff, it was all decided for them by men. And it was incredibly isolating. A running theme throughout this entire novel is just how lonely all of these girls are. They have to sit in their houses all across the country while Genji just wanders through the nation finding more women and, you know, all of this meaningless quick fix pleasure in all ways, be it, you know, money or relationships or that kind of thing. They just have to sit there in their houses pretty much alone and just wait for the man to come back whenever he feels like it. And it's just very sad. Women's emotions just didn't seem to really be cared about in this book. And obviously, I don't want to say like, well, this is proof that women were not cared about in this era, because I don't know that. I am, again, not a Japanese historian. However, this made me sad because this reflected real women's experiences. The women in the story were fictional, but they reflected real life for many women in the era, I can believe. And that is just disheartening to me. But that being said, I did still really enjoy this book. I did still like getting a glimpse into that kind of thing. So I'm very happy I read it. I'm going to keep this book. I still rate this book highly. It makes me upset, but it also makes me think, and it also gives me a lot of perspective, a lot of nuance. It taught me a lot of things. And for that, I really like it. I recommend this book to people who are into classics, people into feminism, people who like poetry, because there was poetry in there. I'm just not a big poetry person, so that didn't hit me as hard. My professor, I know, for instance, really liked it, but it was not something that I enjoyed as much. I have yet to become a poem girly. I am not a poet. I haven't really found much poetry that has really spoken to me, but that's not relevant. So I think mainly these two categories. It's a really good book. I think that a lot of people in a lot of categories should read this at least once. But that is all that I have for now. I was gonna film a video after this, but I am tired. I have plenty of time. I have 3 unedited videos right now, so I suppose I'm not doing as bad as I first really thought. I am always in the mindset of, oh my gosh, you're like down to the wire, it's 11:59 and the assignment isn't due. When in reality, like, that's my mindset. I get things done at least a day in advance. So I am like backlogged with content. I am doing just fine. So I'm going to put off filming another video for another day. I have 2 book reviews that I need to do, and I have another non-book review idea that I need to film. So I'm planning to do that within the next week and a half. But for now, I'm happy with what I do have. So if you liked this video, make sure to like it. Comment down below the oldest book you've read. I guess mine would be the Bible, probably, but I don't want to count that because I feel like so many people have read it. So I think this one is the oldest one I've read so far, but I could be wrong. So comment that down below for you. And then if you like this content, consider subscribing. I'm here every other Thursday. I really enjoy myself here. So if you are so inclined and you want to see more of this content, please do subscribe. That would help me out a ton. I would love to get to 100 subscribers as soon as possible. That would be just super cool. So that's all I have to say. Without further ado, this has been Moo. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye bye!